MotoGP ahead of the 2026 season, the MotoGP world was shaken up once again when Johann Zarco made an unexpected and almost insane statement about Marc Márquez. The statement immediately struck a chord in the paddock, sparking heated speculation and leaving many gasping for breath. What exactly did Zarco mean? And will his controversial words change the competitive landscape of MotoGP going forward? Let's discuss. In an interview that quickly went viral, Zarco emphasised that the pressure in modern MotoGP far exceeds that of previous eras. Expectations are brutal, the performance gap between riders is narrow, and the slightest mistake can be disastrous. Interestingly, however, amidst talk of the abundance of great talent on the grid, Marc Márquez's name continues to come up as the standard of comparison. According to Zarco, this is no coincidence. With his aggressive riding style, extreme courage, and collection of world championship titles, Marquez has redefined what it means to be at the top of MotoGP. Success in MotoGP is not just about single lap speed, but also about adaptability to the bike, consistency under pressure, and mental strength in the face of relentless expectations. Marquez's name is often mentioned because he has set the bar very high, which is the implication of Zarco's statement. He believes that standard makes today's MotoGP far more ruthless and competitive than in the past. Coming from a rider with a solid track record, Zarco's statement carries great weight. He is not a spectator, but a participant. He has recorded more than 20 podiums in MotoGP and 2 wins in the Premier class. One of his most historic victories was at the French Grand Prix in Le Mans, where he became the first home rider to win in over 6 decades. His experience riding for various teams, including Honda LCR, and competing directly against world champions makes his analysis of the level of MotoGP hard to dispute. He intimately understands how competitive dynamics have changed, how technological pressures have increased, and how the margin for error is now almost zero. For Zarco, comparisons with Marquez are not just nostalgia for past dominance. They are a measure of how far MotoGP has evolved. The grid is now filled with talented young riders, from Fabio Quartararo to a new generation that continues to push the boundaries. Ironically, however, it is precisely in the midst of increasingly equal competition that Marquez's standards feel increasingly relevant. Zarco also touched on the fundamental shift in how achievement is judged in the modern era. MotoGP can no longer be measured by just one big name or dominant figure. Competition is now collective, dense, brutal, and unforgiving. Even the slightest mistake can result in an immediate loss of position. Yet, amidst this level of competition, Marquez remains the historical and technical reference for what it means to be a complete rider, a benchmark not easily displaced by time. After Marquez won another world title with Ducati, the standard felt even more bitter for his rivals. Not only did he recover from a long injury and the darkest period of his career, he also proved that he could adapt to a new bike and return to dominance in a completely different environment. This achievement sent a strong message to the entire grid. True greatness requires not only talent, but also mental toughness and racing intelligence. Nevertheless, Zarco emphasised that today's MotoGP no longer revolves around a single rider. Many riders are now performing consistently at the highest level and can compete from one race to the next without constantly being compared to Marquez. This is the clearest sign that the overall quality of MotoGP has improved significantly. The championship is now tighter, more unpredictable, and demands perfection from anyone who wants to stay at the top. Zarco's comments were met with mixed public opinion. Some fans saw his words as an honest reflection of modern MotoGP. The era of single-sport dominance has given way to an era of fiercer collective competition. Others, however, saw the statement as an indirect acknowledgement that Marc Márquez's legacy as a MotoGP icon is too strong to ignore. Clearly, the ensuing discussion went far beyond statistics and race results. It touched on a deeper issue: mental stress. At this point, the narrative turned to a more human aspect that is rarely highlighted. Marc Márquez, known for his fierce, aggressive, and fearless nature on the track, revealed an inner struggle never captured by television cameras. He admitted to having seriously considered his future in MotoGP and even the possibility of leaving Ducati, a thought that once seemed nearly impossible. However, these doubts weren't born of technical issues. The bike was competitive, quite the opposite, in fact. In fact, the Ducati was the most dominant machine on the grid and the benchmark for the modern MotoGP performance. However, behind the Desmosediši's brutal speed, World Championship status, and sky-high public expectations, the pressure on Marquez is intense. Every mistake is magnified, every decision is mercilessly scrutinized, and perfection is always demanded, as if there's no room for fragility. Sometimes, controlling the mind is more difficult than controlling the bike, a simple phrase with profound meaning. According to Marquez, modern MotoGP has evolved into a ruthless mental battleground. It's not just about who is fastest on the track, it's also about who can best withstand the constant pressure, endless expectations, and psychological burden behind the roar of cheers. Nicola Bulega's experience serves as a concrete example of this. The rider, who shone in World Superbike, admitted that he only understood the cruelty of the Premier class after experiencing it firsthand. MotoGP is not just about speed, it's also about mental intensity and extreme adaptation. Toprak Razgatlioglu's name also came up in the discussion. Marquez acknowledged Toprak's extraordinary natural talent. However, he emphasized one crucial point. Mental preparation is paramount. Courage and spectacular style won't be enough without the ability to accept the painful process. According to Marquez, contemplating the possibility of leaving Ducati isn't a sign of giving up or losing faith. Rather, he interprets it as a sign of mental maturity, a phase when an athlete begins to consider the future, risks, and direction of his life on the track, rather than being solely obsessed with instant victory. At this stage, ambition remains, but it goes hand in hand with an awareness of physical limits, mental pressure, and the need for long-term career sustainability. Marquez's past injuries have given him something rare: time. He has had time to reflect and evaluate, and he has realized that the mind must be stronger than the body. This is an honest admission from a rider known for his near fearlessness. In his view, MotoGP is an arena that can consume riders if they aren't psychologically prepared. Media pressure, manufacturer demands, public expectations, and increasingly fierce rivals create a highly aggressive ecosystem. Without a solid mental foundation, not even the best bike will suffice. Therefore, Marquez's message to the next generation is clear and unequivocal. MotoGP is not the ultimate goal, but rather the ultimate test. Is Zarco's statement an honest acknowledgement of Marquez's greatness, or a sign that his rivals aren't mentally prepared for modern MotoGP? Let us know your thoughts below.